Hello, hello, and welcome. We're going to talk about understanding the nervous system. I'm really excited about this conversation, this workshop, because the nervous system is getting such hype for really good reasons. But I also worry that there's a lot of, pop psychology or myths out there. And so my hope is that you'll be able to walk away with a bit more knowledge. Knowledge is power about what your nervous system is, how it works, and how you can buddy up with it. I'm so glad you're here. I say this all the time, but I genuinely mean it. I love talking about these things and I love being able to talk about them with you. I will also say I am a counselor, but I also have lived experience of what it's like to have a hard time. So truly, so much of this work really comes from my heart to yours. So who the heck am I? Why am I talking about this? I'm Kelsey. I'm registered clinical counselor in British Columbia, Canada. I'm a neurodivergent person and I'm a mama of two neurodivergent PDA kiddos. So understanding the nervous system is my everyday living is important for myself and for the little guys that I'm raising. I've been a trauma counselor for many years, and this work close to 10 years as a clinical counselor. And I've been working in the mental health field for almost 20. So truly, this work has been building and building and building for me. And I'm so excited about this ongoing series, being able to share what I know and have conversations with you. Healing Spaces is the clinical counseling group practice that I founded, and it's a trauma-informed, neuro-affirming group counseling practice. We do have this series of monthly presentations is ongoing. Today, we'll talk about understanding the nervous system. In April, we're going to talk about autistic burnout. Really excited about that one. There's a lot of misunderstanding and confusion for people experience autistic burnout, for professionals supporting people. Really excited about that. And then in May, we're going to talk about what your body is trying to tell you. A deeper dive into understanding a bit of the nervous system pieces, but how our bodies actually communicate to us and why we need to listen. Before we dive in, I'd encourage you to join me in a land acknowledgement. If you're living somewhere else, of course, take that time to honor that land. I live, work, and play on the traditional unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I benefit greatly from the preservation of this land that has been cared for by these people since time immemorial. And I'm committed to doing my part to heal historical and ongoing harms done to these people and to this land. Thank you. All right, so today we're going to talk about what the nervous system is. We're going to go through the nervous system response map. If you've seen some of my other presentations, you might be familiar with this already, but it's a really valuable tool to really break it down. We'll talk about what happens when we get stuck, when we feel like we're not fluid within our nervous system responses, and then hopefully leave with some helpful tools for you for today. We will start with what is the nervous system. So take a minute here for yourself and just think about what you know about it, what you've learned about it, what your understanding of the nervous system is, and then you can fact check me. Truly, our nervous system is our body's way of communicating to us. It helps us notice what's going on around us. It senses what's happening inside of us. So that outside awareness, that inside awareness, it reacts to danger. Its whole intention is making sure that we're alive and well and kept safe. And then we're able to settle when we do have safety. And it allows us to connect with other people. It's really a very powerful system. And the body-brain relationship goes both ways. Our body communicates to our brain interprets information, and our brain communicates to our body. The messages are continually going back and forth. Some people might have heard of gut as our second brain. There's a lot of information in our tummy. If you think about when you feel butterflies in your tummy or you feel maybe nauseous in your tummy, there's a lot of information that our body picks up and communicates that to your brain. And again, back and forth. So think about if you're using your hands and you touch something that's sharp, you might react really quickly before you can even think about it. And then you might be more cautious about next time you reach for something in a similar way, because your body and your brain remember that there was something there that was sharp that hurt you. Or if you hear a big sound, you might wonder what's going on. Your body might react. And it helps us sense danger. It communicates to us when there's danger. And danger can be physical, it can be emotional, and it can be psychological. There are a couple pieces that I really want to highlight here when we're thinking about our nervous systems. One is our body brains are constantly updating with new information. If we think about, we hear a big sound and we turn around and it's okay. It was maybe the train realigning and it made a big boom, or we know that there's maybe some avalanche work going on at the mountainside. We might stock that away as different kind of information and go, okay, that's not something I have to worry about. But if we do have a big boom in a different way, and it does cause us to alert, we might remember what that sounds like. And sometimes we can remember sounds with remarkable precision. And sometimes the other thing that I want to talk about too is that some people have a more highly attuned nervous system. Think about trauma survivors, neurodivergent folks, or empaths, highly sensitive people. And often these folks get a bit of a bad rap. We're taught into society to disconnect from the information that our body's giving us, to override it. And I really want to pop that myth. It's really important and beneficial for our own survival and our own well-being that as we're getting information, that we listen to it. Yes, we want to critically analyze the information we're getting. There was a big boom. Are they doing avalanche work? Is there a train realigning? What is this big sound? Or is it something that I do need to be really thoughtful of? Is there a shelf going to fall down and crash on me? What's happening? But trauma survivors, neurodivergent folks, empaths, highly sensitive people have chronically been told that they're too sensitive, that they're overreacting. And what's actually the truth is that their systems were built with such sensitivity that they're actually gathering and responding to much more information than other people get in their systems, or other people interpret, or other people feel. So much information, so much more information than other people. And yet they're continually taught to disconnect from themselves and override their natural systems response and communications. So take a minute to think about that. Is that you? What have you been taught about your relationship with your nervous system? Have you been taught to listen to it, attune to it, understand it? Have you been taught to disconnect from it? And now we'll move into a nervous system response map. Some of you might have heard of some of these terms before: fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and flop. So fight, if there's a threat, real or perceived, it's met with resistance. Flight, I need to get away from here, got to get out. Freeze, I can't make a move, I can't speak, I can't respond. Fawn, people pleasing, not speaking up. What's actually happening here is the person that's fawning in that moment is actually trying to co-regulate the conflict or the distress that's happening. And so they've learned that if they people please and placate and dismiss their own needs, that the other person that they're experiencing conflict will settle, and then everything feels a little bit more peaceful. Or flop, everything goes still. I think of that as too much fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and so we collapse. All of these responses are healthy. All of these responses are appropriate at certain times. Our systems have been created or learned to respond in these ways. Sometimes if there's a threat, we do need to meet resistance. Sometimes it's not safe and we do need to get away. Sometimes being still, like a possum, not moving, is actually our best way for safety. Sometimes navigating conflict can protect our physical bodies or our psychological bodies even more. And sometimes it's too much and we collapse because our system needs to have some space to restore and recover. So all of these are really valuable ways that our bodies respond. We'll talk a bit more later about what happens when we get stuck in one of these places, but I want you to keep in mind that these are actually really helpful ways our bodies respond. And part of the reason I want to say that is this word regulation is blown up, being regulated. Doesn't mean being calm all the time. If someone's calm all the time, especially when it's not an appropriate response, it actually means that they're disconnected from themselves. They're trying to be calm. They're overriding their natural responses to be calm. That's not what regulated is. Regulated is being fluid across states and having a mostly appropriate response to a situation that's going on. And this part is really important. And I have talked about this in social media. I've talked about this in other workshops before. It's so important because I think at present, a lot of people are so focused on being regulated, but they have a misunderstanding of what being regulated is. It is being fluid across states. It is having an appropriate response to what's going on right now. If there's something that's going on that's making you angry, what if your anger is appropriate, either to the situation or maybe given your experiences? I just really want to highlight this piece because regulation, the term being regulated and regulation is really loud. And so I just want to make sure that you know that it's appropriate to have different responses in different times. And being fluid across states, being able to move across states, not being stuck in fight or stuck in freeze is an indication of being regulated. It's not about being calm all the time. Let's say there's a current situation and most people would experience that situation and have a response of anger. Maybe they feel a fight response to this situation. And perhaps for yourself, you've had certain lived experiences. And so maybe your fight or anger response is a bit louder. Or perhaps the opposite. Maybe your fawn response is a bit louder because of the life that you've lived, because of your lived experiences, because your body and your brain and your being and your nervous system learned along the way, wisely so, that responding with a fawn response kept you safe. And so your body has carried that information along with you. But what happens when your fawn response, although it used to keep you safe, doesn't keep you safe at present anymore? What if perhaps it even causes you harm? This is when we want to look a little bit deeper into our lived experiences, how we've learned to keep ourselves safe, and whether they're appropriate still. Do we need to update our information? Do we need to learn why we respond the way we do and perhaps relearn or unlearn why we do that and how to respond maybe differently? I also talked about being regulated as fluid across states. What happens if we get stuck in a certain state? This is often being dysregulated, and this can be a trauma response as well when we're stuck in one state. So no matter what happens, your system feels activated, scared, and you need to seek safety and you fawn. Or perhaps you feel activated no matter what happens and you have a strong fight response. And it's disproportionate to the event that's going on. That could be an indication that you are stuck and not in a regulated place, but in a dysregulated place. And this is a different conversation. Again, our nervous system is giving us information, very, very helpful information that's letting us know that, okay, I'm stuck in a state. There's some piece historically, maybe a trauma that's living alive inside me now and making my system respond as if I'm constantly being threatened, either physically, psychologically, emotionally. And so my system is continually trying to keep me safe. However, I need to update the information. So what happens when we get stuck? We're stuck in a state, like I mentioned, and it's hard to move throughout states. We also might have a significant response, a disproportionately loud response to an event. That, again, can be helpful information that we might be stuck in a certain state. Before we dive into what happens when we're stuck, sometimes we're stuck because a threat is ongoing. And it's important to acknowledge that if we're experiencing a high level of activation, perhaps the threat is ongoing. Are we working in a workspace where we're continually being bullied? Is that part of what's happening? Are we living in a relationship where there is some danger, either physically, emotionally, psychologically, to our being and ourselves? Is that part of the reason we have this ongoing activation? It might not be a ripple of a lived experience. It might not be a historic trauma. Maybe it's current and ongoing right now. So this is an important check because it's not always historic. Sometimes it's ongoing right now. So are you able to find a place to be truly safe, or is the threat ongoing? Once we have been able to find green light, a place that is truly safe, what's happening when we're stuck in one state is that our brain actually believes it's still happening. So if this is our brain, what happens when the threat is historic? So we are in a safety right now, in real life safety, but our brain is still acting as if the threat is ongoing. It's like that alarm bell continually is going off, even though we are in a place where there is no actual threat or danger to ourselves. Our brain is still working really, really hard to keep our body and our being safe. Our nervous system is continually on high alert in order to keep us alive. So this is the amygdala down here. It's tiny, but it's really, really powerful. And this is part of the brain that is like that alarm bell that's going off. Let's use an example. Let's say I went to my kitchen to get a glass of water, and as I was doing that, I was attacked. So getting water next time, I might already feel a bit anxious. I might start to suppress my thirst or my response to my thirst. I might not be able to use the same glass that I used at the time of the attack. I might not be able to go to the same kitchen sink unattended because I'm so anxious about the threat. Our body and our brains don't always know the difference between time. And so if we have an unprocessed trauma that we are still living with, because if we have unprocessed trauma because of a traumatic event, our brain still thinks that it's going on. And so our brain and our nervous system are continually sending alarm bells to our body to keep us alive and well and safe, even if the threat has suppressed, the threat is no longer there. So this is a place where we need to reteach, relearn safety, and we need to process the event. An unprocessed trauma, and trauma lives inside as a response to a traumatic event. Unprocessed trauma inside will keep that alarm bell threat going and will be on high alert. And this is where a lot of support and counseling, trauma-informed counseling, can be really, really helpful to help you process the event. And you can slowly move towards reteaching and relearning what safety is. I say slowly on purpose because we don't want to rush it, right? We want to have respect for our central nervous system. We want to have respect for the communication and the messages that were being sent. Our nervous system works really hard to keep us safe and well. And so it's giving us all these messages for a reason. We don't want to override. We don't want to dismiss. We want to notice what's happening and then see if we can choose a way to respond. Absolutely. But we don't want to override. We don't want to dismiss. We don't want to disrespect the communication that is coming our way. We'll talk about some tools that might be helpful for you to practice day to day. First, self-inventory. Learn your own responses. How do you tend to respond? And what you might notice is you respond in different ways in different situations. Maybe sometime in some relationships you fight. Maybe sometimes you fawn. Maybe your fold is really loud these days. So you might respond differently in different situations, and that's okay. Trying to understand what's happening can be really helpful. You might take some space. You might try to notice your own patterns. You might think about a mildly stressful situation and think about what you might do in that situation. That might give you information about how you respond. You might ask others that are close to you and know you well what you do. You might seek clinical support, and together you can unpack your typical responses and situations. Let's say you're a flighter. Is there a way you can meet your flight needs that's actually helpful, as opposed to exiting a relationship or shutting work down and just taking space? Is there a way that you can flight, biking, running, walking, maybe something else that is giving your nervous system that flight sense, but isn't actually causing you harm? It's actually helpful. Or fight, right? If you have a lot of fight response in you that's building up, is there a way you can get that out? So too with a flop response, do you need a little more rest right now? Maybe your body's asking for more rest. Is there a way that you can identify your typical responses and see if there's a way you can meet that need for your system to respond in that way, in a helpful way? And then the last one is, can you slow the process down? What do I mean by that? And this takes practice, right? I talk about this in my Fear and Courage Masterclass. This is a quote by Viktor E. Frankl. And I love this quote. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. If you're finding that you're feeling a bit stuck, and you're having a bit of stuckness with one response, and you're not as regulated or fluid across nervous system states or nervous system responses, perhaps there's a way where the stimulus comes in, you notice the activation, and you're able to slow down that moment. You can feel the inkling to respond a certain way. However, if you can slow it down, maybe you can see, okay, my nervous system response is asking me, pulling me, calling me to do this right now because it feels like I need to seek safety. I know that I'm okay right now. I'm going to slow it down, bring my system back down, bring myself online again. And now, with a bit more space, I'm going to choose how I'm going to respond to that. This one takes time, a lot of practice. A lot of things are going to go wrong, but it's ongoing. I practice this still. This is a very, very helpful practice. It can be meditative too. And counseling can help. I love counseling personally, professionally, all of it. Something else that can help too is called the butterfly tap. If you're feeling activation in a moment, if you need some help slowing things down, the butterfly tap. I'll show you a couple ways you can do it. Classically, we cross our arms over our body and we're going to tap. And what I like to do is create a bit of sensation. So whether I'm going to tap a bit hard so I can feel my fingers, whether I'm going to squeeze, you want to do one side and the other. So left and right and left and right. And naturally I sway. I'm getting all the bilateral in here. So I also sway. If you're out in public and it feels a bit weird to do this, that's okay. You can also do it with your fingers, or you can do it, you can't see my leg, but you can tap your own legs. What's lovely about this is if you're out in public, your arms are by your side, no one is going to really notice if you're doing this. No one is going to notice if you're tapping your legs. Maybe your hands are in your pocket and nobody can see. There's a lot of ways you can take this practice with you out in community, in public, with other people around, and you can still have some privacy. If something happens and you're feeling a bit activated, see if you can use this tool to help you in the moment, slow you down as an aid to create a bit more space before you respond. And again, compassion, compassion, compassion along the way, because your body has learned it keeps you safe a certain way. And maybe it's time to shift and relearn and reteach your body a different way to respond. And that takes some compassion for ourselves. As a takeaway reflection, can I have more compassion for my system's responses? Can I not villainize myself for responding a certain way? Can I for sure take accountability for how I responded in the moment? But can I do it with a bit of self-compassion, a little understanding? Oh my gosh, I did it again. I know that I do this because this is my story and this is why I do it. And I'm going to keep learning and growing, but I have compassion for the way my system is trying to keep me safe and well. Let's turn up the volume on self-compassion. Something else that I want to put out here is it's not safe to be vulnerable around everyone. If you're exploring these pieces for yourself, if you're doing it with a counselor, awesome. See if it feels right to you to do that with a counselor. If you don't have a counselor, but you have friends, family, a four-legged friend, a beautiful tree friend, whoever your friends are, whoever your community is, just think about whether it feels okay. Listen to your system's responses. Does it feel okay to share this with this person? Is this person helpful right now for me to share this with? Because you deserve the best. And our tender little hearts deserve safekeeping. So if you, especially if you've been hurt, traumatized, if you're really sensitive, just think about this. Think about who it is okay to be vulnerable with. It's not safe to be vulnerable with everybody. If you're curious for more, we do have a free If You're Encouraged PDF download, and then there's a course there too. You're welcome to check that out. We do have some more free upcoming events monthly. You can join our newsletter if you're curious about that. I post the recordings in there as well in our newsletter, and our blog posts, and a whole bunch of stuff's going on in there. And you can check our upcoming events too on our website. So if you are able to join live next time, this is where we do our Q&A. However, because you are virtual, you're welcome to email me your questions, comments, witty remarks. I love them all. And that's our social media handle as well down the bottom. I do have some resources here for you that you're welcome to check out too. Oh, this was from a previous presentation. I didn't update that, but this is actually super cool, post-traumatic growth. So you're welcome to check that out too. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.